Right now, at this moment, the U.S. media are in a complete and total crisis. But it's one that they don't seem to fully grasp. Now, to help you understand how we got here, I want to take a specific look at how certain anchors responded to Trump's inaugural versus how they responded to Biden's inaugural. Let's start with MSNBC's Larry O'Donnell. But don't worry, Rachel, I'm sure Biden won't remember his speech either. But those are opinion hosts, so fawning is expected. What about the news anchors? Here's CNN's Jake Tapper. Well, perhaps sensing all the fawning would open her peers up to criticism, Washington Post media columnist Margaret Sullivan issued this warning. The media can be glad for the Biden White House's return to normalcy, but let's not be lulled. Except when you read beyond the headline, her real intention becomes obvious. There's a difference between truly holding power to account and grandstanding. It's the latter that gave rise to ridiculous dust-ups like the one over President Obama's wearing of a tan suit and shameful overplaying of the Hillary Clinton email scandal during the 2016 campaign. In other words, don't actually go hard on old Joe, ever, especially when it could cost him politically. So it should come as no surprise that trust in traditional media is at an all-time low, according to Edelman's annual Trust Barometer. 56% of Americans agree that journalists and reporters are purposely trying to mislead people by saying things they know are false or gross exaggerations. Joining me now is Glenn Greenwald, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and author. Glenn, do you expect this to change at all as Biden's presidency continues?
No, I expect it to get significantly worse. And I have to say, Laura, you really know how to rile up a guest, forcing me to listen to those hideous, grotesque videos in my ear, one after the next, right before I'm ready to speak. That was actually quite disgusting. The reason that this is happening, and this is a trend that has been going on for quite some time, and it's not like these journalists don't talk about it or don't know it. They actually talk about it quite a bit. But when they talk about it, the fact that they're losing faith and trust on the part of the public, they do one of three things. Either they complain about it and whine about it like it's so unfair because they're entitled to deference, or they blame their critics. They say the reason this is happening is because people point out our errors and point out that we're engaged in propaganda and not reporting, so it's their fault. And now what they're doing is they're trying to just censor everybody off of the internet, so you essentially have no choice but to listen to the people that these polls show are no longer trustworthy. And I think what everyone is going to see is exactly what that video montage demonstrated, which is people will remember how they conducted themselves during the Trump administration, and they will see the glaring difference, not when there's a difference between the two presidents, but when they're the same. They will treat them wildly differently, and that reaction, that lack of trust, will continue to worsen undoubtedly.
And Glenn, I want to move forward to what I know you're interested in, a topic of the militarization of the Capitol, with the concern that there were going to be marauding bands of hundreds or thousands of angry Americans who were threatening Congress and the inauguration. We found out tonight that our National Guard troops are now sleeping in a garage because they were kicked out of the Capitol. Do you have any doubt that they were treated like props, political props, to get this whole militarization going and scare the people?
Well, so, the argument can be made, well, the only reason why there wasn't an attack on the inauguration is precisely because we militarized. But what about the states, the capitals of each state? There was no massive militarization. And you heard a week ago, 10 days ago, leaks from the FBI through ABC News and others claiming, in order to scare people as much as possible, that there were going to be enormous numbers of insurrectionary insurgents or domestic terrorists, which is what they're calling Republicans now, essentially intending to assault state capitals if they couldn't get into Washington. And there was a grand total of one anti-Biden protester, both at the Capitol in Albany in New York and the one in California. So they're constantly now getting riled up because no one's going to pay attention if all you're doing is talking about Joe Biden. They want people scared and nervous and acquiescent to the ruling class, and that's why they're kind of spinning these stories.
Your pal Paul Krugman of the New York Times tweeted this out today. So what happened to the insurrection? Maybe I'm jinxing it, but the wave of violence many expected didn't materialize. before or on Inauguration Day, there were hardly any demonstrators. Where did all the rage go? Well, Glenn, Krugman's trying to mock Trump supporters, but I don't think he realized what he was actually doing. That either the threat, the supposed threat of mass uprisings wasn't a real threat, or that it was exaggerated by an intelligence apparatus that has been known to exaggerate other threats for other ulterior motives.
Laura, the entire goal of the Democratic Party, from starting with Joe Biden, and this isn't me saying this, the Wall Street Journal and others have reported it, is to institute a new war on terror bill that's modeled after the first war on terror that was directed outward at foreign actors and foreign governments, but to bring all of those powers inward. Adam Schiff has a bill pending since 2019 that they want to now use a pretext for, which is that America is on the verge of civil war. There's roving bands of insurgents. This is all designed to entrench powers in their hands that we would never otherwise agree that they should have, to surveil people, to monitor people, to infiltrate groups, to break up protests, to criminalize speech. And we have to be extremely vigilant about the role the media is playing in that.
If the other was called the Patriot Act, which was a total disaster, what will this be called? This will be called the real Patriot Act. We're serious now. Glenn, thanks so much. Great to see you tonight.